Beep, 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 beep. Welcome to the Court of the Digested, good people. Less sniffy. Now, less sniffy. How are you? Right, just quickly. There is a Substacker called Dusty Masterson. Links in the doobers. Go follow. Go subscribe to Dusty's Substack. Does great updates, and Dusty sent me an update. And there's a real gem of a story hidden in the update about that, who's the nutter that runs America? Joe Biden, right? You know? So this is news, I'm afraid. It's not very good news, and it's going way back. Going way back to September. September. But it's still something that you all know about because it's frankly unbelievable. Biden administration gives universities and children's hospitals 100 million to prop up transgenderism. And it's got a picture of that Larping bloke, Rachel Levine. Her. Rachel Levine. As the number, and it's by Peter Thayer, and Katie Kegel. That's right. Nice assonance there, Katie Kegel. Oh, that must have been fun at school for the teacher when they're doing the Katie Kegel. The register. As a number of children identifying themselves as transgender quickly rises, the Biden administration has assured Americans that it is both safe and normal for kids to undergo medical transition procedures. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It takes a while to get in there, doesn't it? Assistant Secretary for Health, Admiral Rachel Larping bloke Levine, for example, has taken to social media to say that gender-affirming care is medically necessary, safe, and effective for trans and non-binary youth, and has called chemical and surgical transitioning a life-saving and critical tool for paediatricians. For the love of God. Behind the scenes, though, the Biden administration doesn't seem so sure that the science is settled as it claims, while telling the world that the sudden spike in transgender youth and adults is safe and natural. Nothing safe and nothing natural about it. The Biden administration has poured an obscene amount of money into researching the devastating mental and physical health consequences that mysteriously plague people who have undergone gender-affirming care. According to a keyword search of usaspending.gov, a database of federal expenditures, the Biden administration has set aside or spent nearly £1.2 billion since 2021 for grants, contracts, direct payments and loans to programs that use the word transgender in their description. 1.2 billion. Yes, I'm like you. I'm like, how much? Excuse me, pardon? What? Where's my bit? However, most of the payments since 2021 were not allocated for specifically transgender-related work and included transgender only as part of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Here it is again, die. Statement in the... so, in other words, they allocated them based on whether they did it. Die, right? The 1.2 billion total is a testament to the rapidly ascendant power of government they've got DEI, I'm saying DI, government DI departments under the Biden administration. The combined total from 2008 to 2020 was just 184 million. But the 1.2 billion total isn't particularly useful for determining how much the Biden administration has spent on transgenderism. To get useful data, each individual grant and contract description had to be reviewed, and only those grants and contracts initiated in 2021 or later were considered. And here's, right, what these folks found. Okay, this is interesting. Here's what we found. To isolate generic DEI statements from trans-specific spending, Capital Research Centre combed through over 600 individual federal grants and contracts featuring keywords and phrases like transgender or gender-affirming care, and identified over 104 million in payments to initiatives, mostly or exclusively promoting, subsidising or studying transgenderism. 104 million. Despite the Biden administration assurances that gender-affirming care is safe enough to be performed on children, most of this money was spent by the US Department of Health and Human Services, commissioning medical research on a variety of horrific mental and physical health conditions that plague transgender people both before and after transitioning. It's almost like trans is a symptom. Some of these studies even examined catastrophic side effects from the hormonal and surgical transitions procedures that the administration insists are supported by overwhelming medical consensus. In addition, many grants of a less sinister but equally wasteful nature put the federal government's proclivity for downright absurd spending practices on full display. If you want to, they've got the source spreadsheet and you can have a look at everybody that's involved. Fascinating, right? The Biden administration, this great subheading here, funding the very much not settled science. Great. The Biden administration has already directed millions of dollars towards researching the health problems that plague transgender adults. A combined $650,000, for example, was given to the Medical College of Wisconsin and the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center for studies examining how to manage the elevated rates of breast cancer in trans feminine people taking estrogen for a long period of time. They're building the medical case to support the medical damage they've done. That's extraordinary. They're built so, right, inject them full of estrogen, give them cancer. What are you going to do? Come up with a really good way of looking after them when they get the cancer and the public won't notice. You bastards. You utter bastards. So they're doing that to manage elevated rates of breast cancer in trans feminine people taking estrogen for a long period of time, while $1.1 million was awarded to UC San Diego by the Department of Defense to study their risk of prostate cancer in women. A further $1.3 million was given to the University of Minnesota just to develop a process to recruit transgender patients for future hypothetical cancer studies. Since it's currently difficult to obtain a group sample size large enough to be useful. Cancer isn't the only risk being studied. The Boston Medical Center received $498,000 to study cardiovascular health problems in transgender people and how hormone treatments affect long-term heart health. Indiana University at Bloomington received $1.1 million to study why trans women have an increased risk of asthma. The bodies of those that have been mutilated, the bodies of those that have been experimented on, whether they wanted it to or not, the body of those that have been harmed by this are being used as a flesh seedbed for further spending. They're treating the human body as a tool for spending on nonsense. It's just insane. Michigan State University received another $1.1 million to develop a framework for modelling resilience as a multidimensional protective factor for transgender health disparities. Alongside these grants are many more to study and treat the unusually high rates of alcoholism, domestic violence, substance abuse and mental health issues suffered by transgender adults. Yeah, right. Millions were also spent on programs to study, treat and reduce the staggering rates of HIV/AIDS infection in transgender people. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, 42% of transgender women surveyed in 7 major US cities in 2021 were HIV positive. The same year, the CDC estimated that 1.2 million total Americans were HIV positive. This indicates transgender people, at least in the 7 cities they studied, experience HIV at a rate 100 times higher than the rest of America. Leaving no stone unturned and no dollar unspent, the government has funded expensive studies at a long roster of universities to examine this issue from virtually every angle. Emory University, for example, received $172,316 to study why pumping biological males with estrogen as part of gender-affirming hormone therapy makes the rectal mucus of trans women more susceptible to HIV infection. Gay men experimented on. On the other side of that coin, the University of Alabama at Birmingham received 222,750 to study why pumping biological women with testosterone makes the vaginal and cervical tissue of trans men much more susceptible to severe tearing and HIV infection. You can have a read, all right? It appears that the bodies of people, particularly the bodies of gay people, are involved in a business model that is designed on damaging you medically and then selling back to you that which you need to get better. And you never will. I'll see you later.